Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode number 332. Submission is hard. A lot of people don't even know when they're submitting, and a lot of people don't recognize when other people are submitting for them. And this is kind of the problem of the world. When a man and a woman kind of bind together in the sacrament of matrimony, and they fall in love, and they decide they're going to love each other no matter what. Essentially, what they're deciding is to submit to one another, that they're going to do the good for the other no matter what the cost to themselves. That's submission. And the other person, if in your fallen nature, you look at your spouse and you say, they're not doing what I want them to do, and therefore they're not submitting to me. But that's not submission. Submission is doing the good for the other person, even when they don't want you to do it for them, right? And so submission is hard. It's something to think about. And, a lot of times, an act of submission is something you don't even recognize as an act of submission. A husband coming home to a wife and then her not dumping all her problems of the day on her husband, right? Allowing him to come into his home and breathe a little bit, like kiss the kids, hug the kids, and not micromanaging the children, trying to make them like perfect for him, because it's not possible. Children can't be perfect. They're not wired properly. And just allowing him to enjoy his own children. Another act, and that's a wonderful act of submission, by the way, and yet it doesn't seem to be an act of submission. Another act of submission is a husband, he goes into this world. And if a husband's a good man, if he's hardworking and he's industrious and he's intelligent and he's relatively kind, the world will present itself to him in all sorts of nefarious ways, bad ways. Ways that he should not have to deal with, but it does. That's what the world does to the man. And a wonderful act of submission, and I hope all the wives realize this, is the fact that he comes home to you not stained with sin, that he actually comes home to you. That's a wonderful act of submission, doing for the good of you, even though there's all sorts of other things in the world presenting themselves to him. And, that's not to say that the man is great and the woman's not great, or the woman's great and the man's not great. There's little acts of submission, the act of showing up in the house at the end of the day, the act of allowing the man to be slightly peaceful in his house, the act of just loving one another and allowing peace to occur in the household is an act of submission. It's so hard. It's so difficult, and it's so difficult particularly for the young people to know. And so I guess this is a video for the young people that are trying to forge the perfect marriage, form the perfect relationship, forge whatever they think is perfection. There is no perfection. Sometimes you have to allow your spouse to be your spouse. You have to keep your hands and your mind and your will off of them and allow them to be themselves. Just quietly allow them to be themselves in peace in your presence. And so submission is difficult. It's hard. It's not easy. And I would say, so what's original sin? Original sin is an act of disobedience or non-submission. How do you correct an act of disobedience and non-submission? Is by being obedient and submissive. And a lot of people are not okay with the word submission, but that's what the Lord did to save our souls. That's what the crucifixion is. It's the act of ultimate obedience and submission to the will of God, to put yourself aside for the good of others. And so we, as genuinely good Catholics, as spouses, as parents, as you name it, friends and family, we have to put ourselves aside for the good of others. And if we do such things, the world can move on, and we can create a brighter future. We really can. Because that's how love's made. You submit to another person who's not necessarily willing to hear your position, and then they're suddenly like, well, they submitted, now let me listen. Suddenly the ears peak up, and they become more receptive to an idea. And so the will of Christ, the will of the Lord was spread through the blood of the martyrs. 29 straight popes dying for his church. And people listened. Christianity spread, and his word got spread around the globe through the blood of the martyrs. So obedience is hard in all sorts of big and small ways. And so I would encourage all of you in small ways to submit in this Lent, to actually give yourselves to people around you where you're not going to have to be right. You're not going to have to like tell people why they're wrong. You're not going to actually have to dominate other people. You're not going to have to actually get your way in business deals. You're not going to actually, you name it, try to submit just slightly for the good of your society and see how it changes around you. It could genuinely become more Christian without you even realizing it. And you can actually genuinely become more Christian without you realizing it. And so submission's difficult, it's hard, and do it. So live a sacramental life, pray the daily rosary, and may God bless you all. And have this is Fat Tuesday, by the way, have a holy Lent. Pick something difficult, give it up, submit to the Lord. God bless you all.